On this episode of Battleground Wisconsin Now with Fraley and Opoien, under the dome, the legislature comes back to vote on coronavirus relief. Outside the bubble, we finally have election results. All of this and more as Battleground Wisconsin starts now.
Welcome to Battleground Wisconsin Now with Fraley and Opoien. I am Jessie Opoien, opinion editor of the Cap Times, and my co-host is Brian Fraley, president of Edge Messaging. How are you doing, Brian?
Good, Jessie. Good to see you again. Glad everything is doing fine up there in Dane County.
Yeah, we're hanging in there, and glad to see that things are going well in Waukesha County, crucial Waukesha County, they say on election nights.
Yeah, let's change things up a little bit, and let's start outside the bubble. We finally have the results from last week's election. What do we know?
Well, we know what we already knew, which is that Joe Biden and Donald Trump have won their respective primary elections. But we knew that the real focus here, the real battleground here was the state Supreme Court seat. And what we're seeing right now is Jill Karofsky has pretty strongly and definitively unseated Justice Dan Kelly. So that's the liberal candidate unseating the conservative candidate. She's got a pretty strong lead, and we're really just waiting on votes coming in from some areas of Milwaukee and Dane counties. So that is likely to continue to bolster her victory on this one.
Yeah, that's the headline out of tonight.
Yep.
Only the second candidate in the last 53 years to unseat a sitting Supreme Court justice in the state of Wisconsin. And it wasn't close. It wasn't close, and it wasn't close throughout this state. The electorate being heavily favored to the Dems because they did have somewhat of a race, even though it was definitive and already had been decided. A lot of votes were cast early before folks dropped out. Like I think Buttigieg is going to get 1,000 votes, right, in Wisconsin.
I think John Delaney got a couple hundred votes.
But it wasn't just the liberal counties that went for Karofsky. She's going to win over a dozen counties. Last I checked, she was winning in Kenosha, and Kelly really underperformed in the suburban WOW counties. And I think dialing and digging into those numbers is going to be something that geeks like me do over the next week or so, just to figure out what lessons can be learned from today. And then in Milwaukee, Mayor Barrett cruises to re-election. The MPS referendum, huge in favor of passage, but it looks like we're going to have possibly a recount in the Milwaukee County executive race between State Representative David Crowley and State Senator Chris Larson.
Yeah, while we're talking right now, that one is really tight. And you mentioned the Kenosha swinginess. Also really interesting to see what's happening in Winnebago County. Definitely some of these more moderate areas that tend to swing have swung hard on this one.
That is undoubtedly. Now we're going to update results as they come in the rest of the night down in the comments section. But this is all likely to go to court anyway, isn't it?
It sure is. We just found out this afternoon that a group of 14 Milwaukee area residents had asked a federal court for a revote or a partial revote. They're talking about the dangers posed by the COVID-19 outbreak and the possible disenfranchisement of voters. That's their argument, that the legislature refusing to act on the governor's request to postpone this, that's disenfranchised voters. We've heard a lot, I think, of heartbreaking stories, either of people who chose to go vote and maybe compromise their health to do so, and also people who take voting very seriously, who felt like they were putting their lives at risk to in order to do that and decided to stay home. And there's no shortage of that. So I think we've got this first lawsuit. It's possible that there will be more lawsuits. On the other hand, it's really hard to change the results of something once they're out there. So
that is correct.
Yeah.
Where the focus is going to be a lot is in the city of Milwaukee, where the Wizards of Smart only opened 5 polling locations instead of the 180 that they normally have. And then up in Brown County, too, where they believe they had two polling sites.
Yeah.
Madison had over 60, right? There weren't lines in Madison.
Madison
So-
had 66 of 92 polling places open. And when you look at Madison being half the size of Milwaukee and seeing 5 out of 180 in Milwaukee, I mean, and even making that comparison to Green Bay, where it's a smaller city, but to have so few places open, I mean, the differences in local election administration on this are really stark. And yeah, Milwaukee and Green Bay, I think, are going to be the places to watch.
So on some of these close races, it might be to be determined. So let's go under the dome. And the legislature's coming back, or most of them are going to come back, and some of them are going to vote virtually. But they're going to take up the COVID coronavirus relief package. What do we know so far? It was just dropped today, and I know it's like 80-some pages. But I also know
it's a big one.
You're a quick study. So what do we know that's in there?
It's not like we both haven't been looking at this all day. I think one of the big things that we've been hearing a lot about is in there that's waiving that 1 week delay for unemployment benefits for qualification. I think an important thing to note about that too is that it is somewhat retroactive back to mid-March when this really started ramping up. So the fact that they delayed it would seem, hopefully, will not mean that if you've been out of work that you can't get compensated for the weeks that you've been out of work so far, or at least that first week where that was in question. Joint Finance Committee will get some new authority to redirect money to help cover expenses related to COVID-19. The state will qualify for additional federal Medicaid money, and there's a little bit of deadline on getting some of those funds. So, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But also insurers, a lot of requirements for insurers to basically, from covering COVID testing for free to not being able to discriminate based on a coronavirus diagnosis, making sure that people who are affected are getting treated fairly through the insurance process. CNAs would face fewer training requirements. That's a start. And what are we thinking about the prospects?
Well, at first it looked like we might be heading toward a partisan stalemate, right? It looked like there were some poison pills possibly being put in there, but they were negotiating, and I think one side might have gone to the press with some of the stuff that they didn't want in there. So I don't know how much to take for truth on all of this. In the end, it looks like it's a package that both sides could agree on. So conceivably, Governor Evers could be signing this package by the end of the week.
That's how it seems, and like I mentioned earlier, some of that Medicaid money, it's I think $200 or $300 million that he actually needs to sign this by the end of the week to start getting some of that federal money. So everyone's on a timeline here, and it does seem like they have gotten to a point where this might get through. Okay,
now's the time on Battleground Wisconsin where we look ahead and we talk about what to watch out for. Jessie, what do you have your eyes on?
Well, I'm kind of a legislature rules nerd. I enjoy kind of following the procedural elements of the legislature and how it works, and the really arcane debates that now that Fred Risser is leaving, we'll have far fewer of them, I think. But I'm genuinely curious to see how they pull off this virtual session. It sounds like about half of the assembly is going to be showing up in person, about half is going to be dialing in virtually. I'm curious about how they're going to do this safely and practice appropriate social distancing with those who do show up. I'm curious to see who does show up and just to see how they can pull this off. The assembly is not always known for having the smoothest operations because it's such a large body and there's a lot of personalities involved. So.
Right, and it's my understanding that they're going to take the role in the assembly the way they do in the Senate, by alphabetical order, by person, instead of electronically. You have to register your vote, yay or nay. That's going to really bog down the process.
It's going to be, just thinking about how hard it is just to coordinate like a Zoom call or a Skype, conversation. I mean, trying to actually pass legislation and do that efficiently with people in all corners of the state. It's going to be interesting to watch. And I'm hopeful that there are actually not a lot of hiccups because this is important legislation and the smoother this goes and the faster it goes, the better. And what are you keeping an eye out for?
All right, well, let's hope it runs as smoothly as Battleground Wisconsin Now. Okay, here's what I'm looking out for, watching. There's mounting pressure to lift the stay-at-home order when it expires on the 24th of this month. WMC, some other local chambers of commerce, the Racine Journal-Times editorialized for this. I know that a lot of state representatives are pushing. I am looking to see where we strike the balance between the public health needs and the needs to revitalize the economy. I think a lot might be dictated on whether the numbers, which have been going down, whether they tick up a little bit toward the end of this week as the result of last Tuesday's election or not. And if they don't, I think you may see some easing, if not on the 24th, by the end of the month. I don't think there's going to be a switch, and some counties in southeast Wisconsin and then Dane County may be treated differently, but it'll be fascinating to see how all that plays out.
Absolutely. You know, we're watching states like New York start to have those conversations, and there's no doubt they're going to have to start happening here. But also, you know, the big message has been like, you know, don't let this sign of progress make us complacent. And I hope that we can
wear a mask in public,
here.
keep washing your hands no matter what.
Right.
That's right.
Right. Stay away from people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
another one in the books for now. I hopefully nothing will have changed dramatically in this election by the time everyone's watching this. But
it's our first election night, sort of, Battleground Wisconsin Now. Jessie, thanks as always. Stay safe.
Thank you.
In Madison. We will do the same here in Brookfield. And for Jessie Opoien, I'm Brian Fraley. This is Battleground Wisconsin Now.